All right, now we are so happy to welcome Alexandra for her presentation. Alexandra is a GrizzlyCorps Fellow serving with the Resource Conservation District of Tehama County, where she is focused on building local and regional outreach, as well as expanding engagement capacity for regenerative agri-food and wildfire resilience projects. She is originally from Indiana and graduated from Indiana University Bloomington with degrees in international studies and Spanish. So I'm very excited to pass the mic over to Alexandra to talk more about her work with Tehama RCD.
Thank you. Introduction, Jasmine. I'm going to try to into Can everybody see that okay? Okay, cool. So yeah, thank you, Jasmine, again for the introduction. My name is Alexandra. I was serving with the Resource Conservation District of Tehama County this year, working on increasing environmental and agricultural resilience in the North State through education and outreach programs. So just to start off, a little bit of background about Tehama County. What we now refer to as Tehama County is located within the traditional homelands of the Nomlaki, Dalpomuntu, Northern Winchin, and Yana peoples. It is within the northern Sacramento River Valley and shaped a little bit like a dish. It's got, like, because of where it is in the valley up top, there are mountains on either side, down into the foothills, and then down into the valley in the middle. Tehama County covers about 3,000 square miles and is bisected by the Sacramento River, and is covered with oak woodlands, grasslands, mixed conifer forests, and cropland, especially in the valley. And the population is about 65,000. I'll try to make this quick since we're running behind, and I know that Tess just gave a really good overview about explaining what RCDs are. But when I came into this position, I didn't really know what they were, so wanted to make sure that I included that. Yeah, RCDs, Resource Conservation Districts, initially established after the Dust Bowl in order to assist farmers and ranchers in conservation efforts. One thing that I have often heard them referred to throughout this year as just a non-regulatory special district, but it wasn't really clear to me what that means. Basically, it's just a public agency, but it's not a governing or a regulatory body. And all work that they do within a community, all work that RCDs do is like voluntary. All community involvement is voluntary. There's nothing that people are just required to do with us. Sorry, excuse me. RCDs provide guidance, technical support, funding, etc. And they're all a little bit different, especially because they're very place-based. Like everywhere is going to have a slightly different priorities, have slightly different needs. So a little bit about the RCD of Tehama County specifically. It is one of the 95 RCDs located throughout the state of California. In Red Bluff, some of this is kind of repetitive, just non-regulatory public agency providing conservation leadership through technical, financial, and educational support. In the last 11 months that I have been with the RCD, they've had about 70 active projects, and they really do a little bit of everything. Broken down, it's about 39% forestry and fuels work, 16% restoration, 13% agriculture, 13% education and outreach, 12% fish passage projects, and 7% just sort of ad hoc other things. And their mission is to work with the community to manage, conserve, improve, and enjoy the natural resources of Tehama County. So my capacity building goals, I had 5, to enhance social media engagement, do community outreach for climate mitigation projects, conducting youth and community environmental education, supporting field capacity, and then strategic and operational planning. So I'll go into those a little bit with a little bit more detail. But I did focus mostly on the first three. My role was primarily outreach and education focused. So for enhancing social media engagement, my role was to sort of assist with the production of multimedia promotional and educational content. So that was making newsletters, social media posts, flyers for workshops, putting together our annual report, things like that. Just a lot of the general outward facing writing and posts that come out of the RCD for pretty much all of the different projects, which was one of the cool things about my role, getting to see a little bit of everything that the RCD does since they do so much. And I wasn't necessarily focused on one specific type of thing, which I quite enjoyed. Second, doing community outreach for climate mitigation projects. Like I said, the RCD does a lot of different types of work, but I would say that the thing that most people in the community know the RCD for is their Tinder Smart Tehama program, which is an initiative that includes a series of projects and services, but they're all focused on community wildfire mitigation. And so I did a lot of work with that throughout the year, attending community events, tabling at those. On the left is a picture of Captain Cal at the Manton Apple Festival at our booth. And then on the right is actually me and someone from CAL FIRE judging the kids' cornbread competition at the Manton Chili Cook-Off and Ice Cream Social last month. But yeah, I got to do a lot of really fun stuff with that, finding creative ways to sort of engage with the community. The two pictures in the middle were of a gingerbread house that we made. There was a local bakery having a gingerbread house baking competition back in December. And so we decided to enter a defensible space and a home hardening gingerbread house, which is pictured here. And then I made some additional signage and handouts to go with that so we could take those to the bakery and then talk to people about our wildfire mitigation plans. One of the other big things that I was involved in was youth and community environmental education. So this is, my role was to support community engagement through event planning, primarily for the Wild and Scenic Film Festival that we host in March, and for public engagement at Dye Creek Preserve. So for the film festival, it involved a lot of coordinating and prepping materials and doing logistics and publicity just to make sure that everything ran smoothly. But Dye Creek was the other large piece of that, and that was probably, if I had to pick like my favorite project that I got to be involved with throughout the year, that would probably be it. The RCD has a partnership with the Nature Conservancy as Dye Creek Preserve to go and conduct public engagement. And so we do a series of public hikes and student field days and get to bring out classes of fourth graders throughout the spring and bringing community members out throughout the winter and the spring just to get on this landscape, to be outside, to learn. And it's been a very rewarding experience. I think one thing that I've enjoyed most was that for the public hikes this spring, we added an additional trail. Historically, they've only had one trail that cuts through the canyon, and it's pretty rugged. And if you have any sort of mobility limitation, you probably cannot traverse that trail. And so we found another route that we were able to open up that goes along the creek side and has now sort of opened up accessibility into this space for more people, which has been really exciting. Oh, there it goes. Oh, Dye Creek was covered in wildflowers this spring. And so I just wanted to include one of those photos because it was really beautiful and a good time. And then my last two goals were supporting field capacity and then strategic and operational planning. I was to participate in field projects sort of as needed, and I was usually needed somewhere else, so that was not actually something that I participated in very often. But I've helped do a couple of planting projects and helping with residual dry matter monitoring, things like that. And then for strategic and operational planning, that's been mostly assisting with templatization and organization of resources to sort of streamline internal processes and just expand overall capacity for the organization. So like I said, I did a lot of work for the Wild and Scenic Film Festival previously. So one of the things that I've been working on is trying to create a guide for whoever is going to be working on that in the following years to just try and make the process a little bit easier. I've also been doing work on the website, helping to reorganize and restructure things. And that is still ongoing. Some of the accomplishments for the year, producing social media posts, newsletters, press releases, flyers, all that good stuff. I did not have an exact count, but that has been ongoing throughout the year. Updating community outreach documents, including our annual report, meeting and speaking with community members about wildfire preparedness at community events such as the Apple Festival and the Chili Cook-Off, helping to coordinate repair for the film festival, completing GIS coursework, coordinating, facilitating Dye Creek public engagement, just some of the things that I got to work on this year. There it goes. Some of the challenges and lessons learned. For me, like Jasmine said earlier, I'm from Indiana. I moved out here right at the beginning of this fellowship. So I was in a new place, new job, a lot of things changing all at once. And it just took a little bit of time to adjust. And I think that just meant that getting started in the year took longer than expected, especially with, I had never worked in a role like this before. My previous work experience has been very different. I've never really worked in an office setting, so that was a big change. Another was finding a balance between direct service and training. That was just something that personally I felt like I did not set early enough for myself. And then I found it kind of difficult to find the time to do some of those things. And then my other big one was figuring out and communicating professional needs. I think in having that time to adjust, I eventually got to this point where I realized that there were things that being in a new work environment, I didn't realize it was something that I needed in order to be successful and to help other people. So finding if I needed somebody to communicate more clearly with me, realizing that that was an issue and then being able to communicate that back with people was just something that I've been working on and learning throughout the year. And so, yeah, some of the lessons, more adaptable, better at communication, I feel like, than I was at the beginning of the year. Even though those were things that I would have previously considered a skill, I feel like I've definitely expanded on that, expanding my personal toolkit of just time, task management, tools, things that can help me do that. And just finding like new ways of thinking and communicating just by virtue of being in a new space with new people. And then some of my reflections were just being really grateful to have had this year. Yeah, I'm trying to wrap it up quickly, but yeah, I was really, really thankful for this cohort and this opportunity. I got to meet a lot of really incredible people and do a lot of really incredible things. And I'm just very thankful for that, and having this as an opportunity to like reflect and remember like where I started and where I'm trying to go. But yeah, so thank you for listening. And if anybody has any questions. Stop share.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alexandra. Really great presentation, and so awesome to hear more about your work. We do have time for 1 or 2 questions. We're just going to start our next presentation a little bit later, but go ahead and unmute yourselves or put any of your questions or appreciations in the chat.
What was the biggest adjustment you felt professionally from like your previous work environments?
I feel like it's a good question. I just had to sit a lot, and I'm not like most of the jobs that I've had in the past have either been like service jobs, or I was working shorter shifts, or I was just doing something where I was going to be up and moving. And so I spent a lot of time just like sitting at a computer. And even though I was around other people, pretty much everything I was doing was like, once I was handed a task, it was then on me to just sit and do it, which is fine. But it's just very different from the things that I was used to, and like collaborating in a different way with people and moving around a lot. And so that was just a big adjustment. I've never worked in like an office environment before. Like I've worked in restaurants, I've worked in schools, I've worked in other spaces, but yeah, that was a big change for me. So.
What about your, oh, can you hear me? Sorry. Okay, awesome. What about this job has made you excited about land management work, or that sort of the future of California in terms of land management?
I think just like seeing and like remembering like how much progress has been made and like how many different opportunities there are. Because I think honestly, in making this presentation, like I was kind of stressed at the beginning because I was like, what did I even do? I don't know what to put. And then I like had to sit and think about it. And then I just started writing. I'm like, oh, I guess when I actually stop and think, like over the course of those months, like a lot has been accomplished, but sometimes it's hard to see in the moment. So I think just like, yeah, by virtue of being in this space and by taking a second to like reflect and actually like look around, I just see that there's so much opportunity and so much potential. And then I think that's very exciting. I don't necessarily know where that would take me specifically, but I think it's cool that there are options.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Well, yeah, thank you so much, Alexandra. Really awesome presentation. And yeah, we're gonna move on to our next presentation.